So as I'm making this video, the world is currently experiencing a pandemic of sorts as a result of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, also known as Wuhan virus or COVID-19. I live in the United States, in particular New Jersey, and right now our governor is enforcing mandatory curfew hours, and he's also considering taking extreme measures if needed. So we're pretty much on the brink of quarantine. But, I agree with this for the most part because we have to do something to slow down this viral spread. If not, things can only get worse. So right now we're being told by agencies like the World Health Organization to observe social distancing. So a couple of days ago I was on Instagram and I was watching this live stream of some Italian who was walking the streets of Rome. And if you've been paying attention to the news, Italy is currently going through a very, very bad ordeal with the coronavirus. It's so bad that pretty much the whole entire country is under quarantine and you can only leave your house for getting essential items like food and going to work, especially if you're a medical worker. In this live stream, I was very taken aback to see how empty the streets of Rome were. Now, yeah, I was paying attention to the news, but it's such a weird experience to see some place that was once inhabited by so many people walking down the street, now to virtually a ghost town or a ghost, city, whatever you want to call it. My friend recently went to New York City and he experienced the same thing. So as I was watching this stream, I was reminded of the works of horror manga author and artist Junji Ito, in particular his piece Army of One, which appeared as an aside story at the end of his Hellstar Ramina manga. To give you a brief synopsis, Army of One by Junji Ito is a single-volume manga piece that centers around a series of mysterious murders that involves the stitching of dead corpses. In the manga, we follow Michio, a self-isolationist type of guy who has barely left his bedroom for the past 7 years after what is presumably high school life. One day, Michio is called by a girl, Natsuko, from his school days, and the two begin to talk once again. As Michio begins to catch up with old friends, they attempt to arrange a school reunion of some sort while the stitching murders are going on. One of the warnings that persists throughout the manga to the characters is the urgency to not be in large groups, as there is a tendency for these stitching murders to happen when 2 or more people are together. It gets to a point where things become so bad in the plot that people, even within their own homes, begin to isolate themselves from one another. Now, I hope this doesn't ruin the manga for you too much, but I strongly urge whoever's listening to check out this story along with Ito's other works. Italy, and admittedly, much of the world, was thrown into this pandemic crisis so quickly, you might as well say things changed overnight. As I watch the news and see videos of Italians in their homes communicating on porches, or hear about how countries who have been hit hard with this pandemic have funeral homes live streaming funerals, I can't help but think of this in the context of Ito's manga, Army of One. All of this seems so alien and atypical. I know I'm not alone in thinking that we often take the normalcy of our world, or at least in our individual lives, for granted. And by normalcy, I mean things that are typically good. Right now, in Jersey, things are pretty stable, but it can change at any moment. Anyway, nobody is getting murdered by some supernatural stitching wizard. But in all actuality, the force that is killing people in Ito's manga is just as invisible as this coronavirus. There is a real sense of anxiety now with being in large crowds, at least in places outside of the US. I think the world was appalled to see the amount of college kids that were going to their spring break destinations in Florida in the midst of this global pandemic.
If I get corona, I get corona. At the end of the day, I'm not going to let it stop me from partying. We've been waiting for Miami spring break for a while. About 2 months we've had this trip planned.
Do here other than go to the bars or the beach, and they're closing all of it. It's really messing. I think they're blowing it way out of proportion.
It's bad. We need a refund. This virus ain't that serious. It's serious. It's more serious things out there like hunger and poverty, and we need to address that.
Yeah, we planned this a long time ago and it was kind of up in the air if we still go, but we're here. I just turned 21 this year.
We're gonna make the best of it. We're enjoying ourselves. It sucks, and I'm from New Orleans, so this really sucks.
We're just gonna do what happens when it happens. When stuff closes, we're gonna do it when it closes, but besides that, we're just trying to have the best trip we can.
Just as Michio's country, Japan, struggled in the plot to combat this invisible killer with offering what is very limited advice to stay indoors and avoid people, we are seeing this become somewhat a reality, as countries in our world are resorting to full-on lockdowns. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. If you haven't already, check out the channel. I'm going to be uploading other videos. This is just a brief, I guess, discussion piece, analysis also of Army of One. Junji Ito, I have 2 of his mangas, Gaio, I think it's Gaio, the one with the fish, Uzumaki, and I think I also have another one, Tomie, yeah. So I completely love his work. I started reading his stuff in 2018, and yeah, it's really cool. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.